Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to talk about the return of the specialist games from Games Workshop, stuff like Shadow War Armageddon, Necromunda, maybe Mordheim. I mean, we've got Shadespire, whatever it's called, for Age of Sigmar, and the fact that, quite a lot of this stuff is coming back. It's doing well. Blood Bowl, for instance, big release Blood Bowl, and this is all fine. This is all well and good, but there's one particular game that is missing. And I've really wanted to play it for a long time, but there's just no one around here that does play it. And back when it was fairly popular, again, still there was no one around who played it. As I was getting into 40k, it was starting to decline in popularity a fair bit. And because it's something that I've never had the chance to experience, it's also something that I really want to try. That is, of course, Inquisitor. Now, Inquisitor is really very different to most of the other game systems that Games Workshop have produced. I mean, most of them revolve around small or large-scale battles, obviously, apart from Blood Bowl. Well, I mean, I'll still class Blood Bowl as a battle, Just, you might be chucking a ball to each other, but you can still waste people. And whilst it ranges up in scale in terms of things like Necromunda, where you've got a few members of gangs fighting each other, all the way up to Epic, which was one of those things that I just never wanted to try because it looked like painting the models was the worst thing in the world. Epic was essentially, you had full-on Titan warfare, and you also had loads and loads of other stuff. Like, instead of moving one Land Raider, for instance, you'd have like a unit of 5, because it was massive Warhammer 40k warfare. But everything was scaled down, so it was nice and small, and you weren't actually shifting 5 full-size Land Raiders, and therefore you didn't have to mortgage your house to play it. Inquisitor was the absolute opposite end of the spectrum, where you generally had a character, and quite a lot of them were, well, it was a 45mm scale as opposed to 28mm. Now, at the moment, so for instance, just as an example, this is a Slaughter Priest of Khorne. Here's one I finished earlier. He's not finished, but he's close to finished. He's pretty fucking big. I'm just going to say that right now. So if you put him next to a Primaris Marine, and in fact, I happen to have a Primaris Marine right here. So I thought Age of Sigmar and 40k were pretty much the same scale, but if you put them next to each other, that Slaughter Priest of Khorne has got to be pushing 8 foot something tall, which is crazy and pretty funny. But this is quite a large miniature. It's still not a 54mm scale miniature. It's still 28. And there was like one person I knew that had an actual Inquisitor model, and they had done so much conversion work to it, because it's a couple of things that have made me really want them to bring Inquisitor back and to bring back those large scale models. Firstly, it's a game system that is not really the same as any of the game systems. There are similarities, obviously, but it's far more RPG-esque, and you also have this thing of, it wasn't just sort of suggested that you convert models. You kind of have to convert your models. You've got to make it unique. You've got to make it your own thing. There's loads of different archetypes that you could play. So, actual Inquisitors. You could actually play Space Marines, members of the Adeptus Mechanicus, Rogue Traders. I have got this on a page in front of me, by the way. I can't remember all these off by heart. I could only remember about 4 of them. Rogue Traders, Cultists, Fanatics, Imperial Guard, Enforcers, Mutants, the Ecclesiarchy, Arco-Flagellants, which is hilarious, Assassins, Demon Host, and I think I said Mutants. No, Desperados. I didn't say Desperados. It looked, having recently got into D&D, having fairly recently got into D&D, it kind of looked like a really kind of cool, interesting mix of full-on RPG and actual kind of tabletop tactic warfare, if that makes sense. There's also quite a bit of a relaxed attitude around it. I do remember that a couple of friends did give the game a go with the one dude who had an actual Inquisitor model, and they didn't have them. They just didn't have the models to do it, and so they used just any random model they had lying around, which obviously being 28mm scale compared to 54mm scale shouldn't work, but things like measurements and stuff were given in yards, so it didn't really matter what the actual size of the model was. If you wanted to have a quick tryout game, it really didn't matter. You could just play it, which, let's face it, compared to how Games Workshop became, and compared to the kind of attitude that has become quite prevalent in a lot of places, is very relaxed. I think more than anything, it is literally that thing of, I at least saw people play Blood Bowl regularly. I didn't really play it myself. I had the opportunity to play a couple of games of Battlefleet Gothic, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the PC adaptation of it as well, actually, the one that came out last year. I did actually get to play a bit of Necromunda, and I really enjoyed it. Not a huge amount, and using other people's models mostly, or at least having hand-me-down models to make my gang out of. But Inquisitor is like an unknown quantity to me. It's something that, at the time, I liked the look of, but there was just no one who actually played it, no one who had models, no one who had the rules, apart from this one dude. And when you're just getting into 40k, and you're only just kind of getting into that universe, and you've only just started putting models together and painting, and let's face it, let's be honest, most people, their first model, garbage, not good, absolutely not good, really not good, just awful. Mine looked terrible. The scale and the look of the Inquisitor stuff was like, whoa, I actually don't want to paint that, because I'll make a horrible mess of it, and because it's scaled up, it'll look awful. So I prefer not to do it. The fact that you get so much more customization as well, stuff like that, that's one of the things I really liked about Warhammer 40k that sadly seems to be disappearing slightly, the sheer amount of customization. I mean, you can give a Space Marine captain pretty damn near anything, unfortunately short of like heavy weapons, even though I'd really love to have a chapter master who uses an assault cannon. That would be pretty cool. Can't do that, and haven't been able to for quite some time. But the fact that you had, you just gave them what you wanted to give them. You picked their army, you picked all of their war gear, you picked all of their weapons. It's like a proper narrative system. It does really, when you look back at it, and when I think about it now, having experienced D&D, seem as though it was kind of just a 40k version of D&D with more of an emphasis on the actual model that you use, which I like that. I really like the idea of that. But it did get me thinking. So I really want to see a return for Inquisitor. I'd love to see Inquisitor come back. I actually think it would be quite a good time for it to come back, because things like D&D and Pathfinder and what is the other one? Shadowrun, stuff like that. They have not gone anywhere. They're not like less popular than they were. They're still pretty damn popular. And there's now tools by which people are playing with other people kind of all over the world, things like Roll20 and stuff like that. I feel like the return of Inquisitor could actually work. It could do really well, and it could also serve to introduce people to the game a bit more. Now, I know we've got things like Dark Heresy and stuff, but there is also, on a purely selfish side of things, the model element of it. And obviously, if you're trying to play it over the internet or something, then you wouldn't be that fussed about the models. I mean, it's still a narrative skirmish game, but there's definite kind of, as I am now, someone who loves converting models and kit bashing and making something just as my own as I can make it, the idea of having a larger model to work with and actually being kind of required to just make everything, like convert everything, it really appeals to me. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. So what I want to know is, did you used to play Inquisitor? did you think that it was a good system? Do you think it would work now? Do you think that there would be a kind of a good reception for it if it was to return? Or do you actually think that the time might have passed, that really there's no sense bringing Inquisitor back because we have things like Roll20, we've got things like Dark Heresy, we've got, you know, D&D still around, Pathfinder and Shadowrun, and all the other systems. I know I haven't named all of them, but I know there's God knows how many of them. I was just naming the ones that came to mind at the time. Do you think it would work? Is it something that you'd like to see come back? Did you miss it the first time round and would like to see an officially supported re-release of it so you could actually get to experiencing it? Anyway, bit roundy, but that's fine. As always, I will read your comments down below in the comment section. Obviously, where else would it be? What am I talking about? And there is the usual thing to click, just Patreon, subscribe, videos, all of that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you. And I will see you for the next one, where hopefully we will talk about some Death Guard stuff. Awesome. See you later.